Gordon's going to ask me questions today. He's in charge of everything.
If I get a chance, yeah.
If he gets a chance, about me and my run round the island, 56 miles at 56 years old. 56.
Yeah, because it's very. Yeah, because I'm interested to know. You've told me bits about it, but obviously more detail about it, and also you've heard some other people that have done it in the past, and you've heard about people that are planning to do it in the future.
Well, that's the reason it's come up now.
Yeah. So just.
Well, I just mention them now.
Chat to you about your. Yeah, you could about there's a chap that's coming up that's doing it,
right?
And there's a reason why you wanted to talk about your day when you did it.
On arransound.com Distro Radio, they're doing a piece every day at the moment because on the fella Graham Johnson, who's the youth work project manager with Arran Youth Foundation, and they've got their cabins in Lamlash, and he has done a couple of ultras in the past, couple of 40-mile runs to raise funds for them, and he's raised about £1,000. And on the 19th of May, he intends to run round Arran and raise more funds and hopefully bigger amounts of money than he's raised in the past to help support that. So he's doing it for a good cause. And when he's been on the radio, they've mentioned me at the end of it every day, because I have run round Arran in the past 2 years ago, and in fact they were saying maybe you could get some tips from Dave, and Dave could tell his story, and you can get any helpful hints and things. And so I thought I'll do that. I'll record me what I did, and also say what mistakes I made, and that hopefully gives him some attention on his run on the 19th of May as well. Yeah. Okay. Oh, Teeny, you're such a good doggy. You're such a good doggy. Right, there we go.
Okay.
Is Teeny allowed up?
Yeah, she'll come up.
Oh, come on up, Teeny. Let's get you up. Come on. Let's get you up. Oh, yes, you are lovely. Oh, I'll put that cushion there for you.
She might sit there.
You are such a good dog. Right, well, are you introducing this today?
Well, I can just.
I'll say who I'm Dave the Roving the Rock and Gordon the Gopher, and today we're in Gordon's house because Gordon is going to take the turn at interviewing me today.
Yep.
And he's in charge of all the questions, so fire on, Gordon.
Yep, so we're going to chat today about your epic rave run around the island a couple of years ago.
Right, yeah.
And get your kind of get some facts and how you felt and stuff like that.
Yeah. As you mentioned, we've got Teeny with us as well.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
Gordon's
Teeny's
little dog.
here with us, so she
might
stay, she might not.
She's lovely, she's making little happy groans.
Yep, you might hear her groans as well.
Okay, so where will we start?
Well, we'll start with, obviously, where did the idea for your actual run you did come from, and how long ago did you actually first think, oh, nice to run around the island? So you probably had the idea for your actual run maybe not that long ago, but when did you actually first think, oh, one day I'd like to run around the island?
Okay.
Can you remember?
The first time I thought about going around the island non-stop at all was actually in the late 80s when people were doing sponsored walks around Arran. Do you remember that?
Yep.
It was quite popular at the time. You get quite a few dozen people going around, and they'd spend about 20 hours or something, and
yep.
So a few of them would conk out, but most of them would make it all the way 56 miles around Arran.
People I can remember, was it not John Pennicott?
And Neil Gillis.
Yep. Ruth Thompson?
Yeah, she was a good walker.
Yeah.
And so they did the sponsored walks around. It's 56 miles around Arran, and they were doing this non-stop. So I fancied the idea of doing that at that time, and then I took up running when I stopped smoking in my mid-30s, so that was about 23 years ago roughly. 58 now. So all the time I was running for the last 20 years, I've fancied running around Arran because I've been here 40 years just about now, and it's just always appealed since then. But I'd never done it, and I've heard of one or two people in the past that had done it, visitors really, not any locals that I'd heard of before
you, but
not really, no.
did it after you.
Just the odd ultra runner come to Arran, maybe one or two.
You did it.
Gabrielle.
Andrew
Bunting. Yep.
David Copperwheat.
David Copperwheat.
He's done it apparently. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but anyway, so I fancied doing it because I was a runner, and that's where the idea first came from. And when I was a runner, all the 20 years I've run, I fancied doing it, and then I was getting towards the age of 56, and it's 56 miles round Arran, and so at that point, a couple of years before, I thought that's the chance. If I get the chance, I'm going to try it when I turn 56 that year. 56. If I get the chance. But life always sometimes gets in the way. But anyway, so that was my idea. Yeah.
So before you did that, what is the longest actual race you've done, as in a competitive race? What's the longest distance?
Well, you and I both run, Gordon, and we know that because we're on Arran, we're kind of cut off from most of the races. It takes a day or two to get there and get back again. The boat times don't work in well. So I don't race very often anyway, to be fair. But almost every race I've ever done has been 5 or 10k. And in fact, the only thing I'd ever done longer than that was half marathon in Shiskin.
And you've not done longer than that?
No, 3 or 4 times I've done the Shiskin half marathon. And the longest race I've done in the mainland is 10k. And I've done that deliberately because I've actually always thought that running longer than half marathon, I've read about it, is actually bad for you, in fact, because it's a test where you don't get to recover. You just keep testing yourself. It's almost too much for your body that's why it takes so long. It takes a month to recover from a marathon.
Yeah, there is negative stuff about ultra running as well.
Yes. It's all, like you say, everything in moderation. So I've always thought 5 and 10k's were really good for me, although I tend to push it a bit hard and max it and stuff like that, and I don't know if that's very good for me, but but most of the time I only run 3/4 an hour, maybe half an hour a day, and so that's the longest. I'd never done a marathon before. I'd never done an ultra marathon before. I was in uncharted territory.
So what is, out with a race situation, what do you regard as the longest run you've ever done, either time or distance? Like actually just going out.
Before I started training for this, I had done one run with Mike Mellor, and in distance in training, the longest I'd ever done was probably 20 miles, which I probably did with you and Mike Mellor, Bean Sprouts. And I did do one run with Mike Mellor, which we didn't really plan. We just said, right, let's go far and as long as we can round Arran. And at that point, we did about 35, 36 miles round Arran with no stuff. We had things that we had little rucksacks in our back and stuff like that, and no backup, and so we were carrying things. We had heavy loads. And we both conked out at the end before we got to the round Arran, and it wasn't planned, and that's not a surprise, and we hadn't done any special training.
As you know, I've only done the north half, as you can remember when I did that. So so in this context of running around the island, probably the longest I've done is the north half, which was Kinloch to the pier, Boddick Pier.
Yeah, I remember you were very proud of it because you were going over the mountains and all sorts.
Absolutely done in, but
yes, that's right.
So why did you choose to do it kind of on your own?
Yeah,
and like unsupported, and also obviously you kind of didn't let anybody know you were
and I know I'm a bit strange. I've always known that I'm a little bit strange anyway, right. and it's a bit of a source of pride in me, and because I think if you're travelling at 30,000 miles an hour, whatever it is, on a ball of rock in chaos, everything's chance and luck. You don't know how long your life is and all that kind of stuff. You might as well have some madness in you, and in fact, you should have some madness in you. And I've got some in me. So sometimes I'm a bit off the beaten track. For me, I don't like any races where I kind of enter beforehand. It stresses me out. So even 10Ks and things, I don't like to do that. I like to turn up on the day and decide on the day. Otherwise I might not sleep and things. I don't perform so well. Gosh, this dog's beautiful. What kind of noise are you making down there, Teeny? You are a beautiful dog. Oh, look at that. That's a wee grunting, groaning dog.
Yeah, she does a lot of that.
A little chubby dog as well. Little chubby belly. What little chubby belly? So anyway, I didn't tell anybody because I'd already done about 2/3 of Arran with Beanie and stopped. So I didn't want to fail. And also I didn't want to be sponsored or anything like that because I kind of expected to fail. Because I didn't have any experience in that kind of thing. And anytime I'd run further than 20 miles, you know, even when I was training, you know, I was just done. I was done in. So I just wanted to go on my own and unsupported, because if I get support, if people know about it, then there's an expectation, there's a burden on my shoulders. That's the way I see it, right? There's no burden. I'm free to fail or free to succeed if I go on my own. And so I didn't tell anybody. I did tell people that I was intending to do it
one
day, but not on the day. I was training on the odd occasion with Vinnie Beansprout because he was wanting to run around Arran as well. He didn't do that much training. We only did a couple of runs together, and I was scared also if I run it with Beanie that one of us would inevitably hold the other one up if we run it together, because one of us would fail or one of us would go slower than the other one. And so I thought it's better if I just do it on my own, and I fail on my own or I succeed, but I don't affect anybody else and nobody else affects me.
Yeah, I get that.
So it's just down to me. So I didn't tell her so.
Okay, so as you said, you ran it on, well, so 2 years ago now, isn't it? On the 2nd of April 2021.
That's right.
So firstly, obviously that date's not your birthday, is it?
It's not a special date.
So
no.
why that day?
It happened to be my day off. I looked ahead of the weather. I with these races, you're meant to plan it precisely, and you're meant to like taper down your running and ease up for weeks before and stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't really do that. I didn't know exactly what date until a few days before, and then I thought, oh, the weather looks quite good that weekend. You know, I'm off then, that kind of thing. So I've got 2 or 3 days in a row there. I can pick one of them, and in fact, I was working on the 1st of April, but I'd had a long lunch break that day. And so I thought, well, that's my chance. I had a 2-hour lunch break for some reason. I can't remember what it was. And so I thought, I'll get you down, Ginny. There we go, put the dog down on the floor. Oh, you were gorgeous. You were a good dog. You were. So this on the 1st, I decided for sure. I thought, right, that's my day. I can prepare for the effort on the 2nd because I've got a long lunch break and I can do what needs to be done because I'm unsupported.
On the subject of the long lunch break, obviously you went and organised all your food and provisions.
Yeah.
So on your lunch break, 2 hours, that's pretty impressive.
I don't normally get that kind of lunch break, so that worked out well.
So again, you picked that date and you obviously chose to start at Lagg. I assume finish at Lagg. So, and again,
why did you do that?
What was the reason for that, Lagg? Just, because as I say, it's kind of like, you're in White and Bay, and so why Lagg? And obviously, did you think much about what direction you would go, or did you just say, right, I'm going to go?
Well, first of all, I chose April because I thought that might be decent spring weather, but not too hot like the summer. Because you see, like London Marathon things, people getting boiled and staggering about and failing. So it was spring weather for me. That's what I thought. So it was just sometime in the spring is all I was thinking.
It could have been anything. It could have been driving rain.
Yes, it could have been
cold wind. It could have been baking hot.
But when I saw the forecast, I thought, it's kind of windless and still and sunny. Yeah. So that's good. That's right. Good, I mean, that might not always be so good. I thought it was good at the time, so that was my decisions. You can see how it panned out in a minute. And then I decided to start at Lagg. And go anti-clockwise because I thought I might fail here. I live in Whiting Bay, my work's in Brodick, okay? So in fact, I've got a map here, right? I'll just hold it up. So, a map of Arran, in fact I'll put it over here, right? So, knees. I decided to start at Lagg and go anti-clockwise round the island because by the time I got to the top of the island of Arran, I'd have run a marathon. I can do that, right? I'd done training that would allow me to do that. and I knew that. So I'd done 3 marathons in training. So by this time, so I thought I can definitely do that. I can run down from Lochranza, then it's all flat all the way down past Stanix and Corrie to Brodick. So I'm probably going to make Brodick, and then I might fail. But at that point, I'm at work. There's regular buses to Whiting Bay. I'm only 8 miles away from where I live. Now I'm in the area. If I'd done it from somewhere else, let's say I'd started from Brodick and gone clockwise, I could end or anti-clockwise. I could end up at Macquarie or Thunderguy or somewhere in the middle of nowhere. There's no buses. No one can help me if I fail. So there's an assumption, or at least a backup plan if I'm going to fail, which I thought I might well, right? And at least I can fail in Brodick or Lamlash or even Whiting Bay where I live.
That's your house.
Yeah, and that's still got like 9 or 10 miles to Lagg. Brodick's got another 8, so I'll be 40 miles round at Brodick, roughly 39, 40 miles, and I'd be safe. I can just happily fail, if you know what I mean. So that was the thinking there.
Okay, that makes sense.
And also, I get all the flat miles out, so a better chance of getting a good so I can get my head round at the end, because I know the south end of the island is where the hills are.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it, because people think of the big hills, which is the Ross and the String and the Bogley. Bogley's the biggest hill in Round Arran. But actually, all of that south end is up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down the whole time, and Butter Hill as well, which is big. And so I know that was going to be the biggest challenge. So I thought I'll leave that to the end. Maybe that's a good thing because I can get the most mileage in and then just tough it out. That was my thinking.
I get, because we talked that other, didn't it? That when you're tired, it actually can be easier to run up and down hills and run on the flat, because, you know, we talked about it yesterday.
Yeah.
That it's actually quite hard when you're tired to run on the flat when
Endless
you know
flat.
you've got to keep kind of going a long ways on a hill.
Yeah, monotony.
If you could say, well, I could walk up this hill and then run down the other side. But when you're on the flat, you're tired,
But again,
monotony.
Much like the dry, sunny day, and much like leaving the hills till the end, these things can work out in your favour or not, but that was the logic behind those 2 decisions.
Right, that's good, didn't know that.
Yeah.
I have talked about it. So, obviously, on the day, but you previously on your 2-hour lunch break organised your food and drink. So
I'll tell you how I did that.
And what did you what kind of food and drink did you organise?
Right, so the day before on my long lunch, I'll just lift Teeny back up. What a dog. It's gorgeous. I went round the whole island in my car the day before, and I didn't tell anybody I was working with that I was doing that. I had this crazy 2-hour lunch, which I never get. I just happened to get it. They owed me an hour for something. And
but did you know?
I decided I was doing it the next day.
Did you know you were going to get a 2-hour lunch?
Yeah, I knew that a couple of days before.
Right.
So I kind of fitted in with the weather. Knew I could get the break, dive round the island, go right for dead fast. No one needs to know. And so I had worked out, because I was following a training plan, okay, from a book called Relentless Forward Progress, an ultramarathon book, okay?
Right.
And it ramped up your mileage, you know, and told you what nutrition and diet and stuff and you know what you would need in the day. Right. And so it said that you will be burning about 800 calories an hour, but you can only absorb about 300, maybe 350, because all your blood is in your muscles, not in your stomach. Right. You can't digest that much. That's why runners hit the wall in a marathon, because after 20 miles you go off, you've got enough energy to run 20 miles, then you go on to fat burning and whatever you can digest, right? That's why marathon's so hard and people fail at the end. Mm-hmm. So you've got to get as much calories in as you can to take the burden off your fat getting used as energy, which is hard. It's a whole different fuel source and it's hard to get hold of that. That's why people slow down. But also, you can't get all your energy from that. You can only get just under half of it from that, about 350 calories maximum. So, but you're burning more than twice that. But you've still got to get it. So, I put 300 to 350 calories every 8 miles round the island, and I got in the car, and I knew I'd have to find them, so I randomly went round the island, and it just worked out perfect. Every 8 miles from Lagg was a little village with a signpost, 30 mile an hour sign or steep corner or something, and What are you doing, Teeny? What are you doing down there?
So it was.
So I buried them.
Lucozade. Was it Lucozade?
So I got a Chinese takeaway tub.
All right.
I put a
I thought you were going to say you took Chinese takeaway around where you're there. Right, okay, a Chinese takeaway, right?
Yes, I got. Well, it's some, they'd all been eaten. But I got a bottle of Lucozade Sport every 8 miles.
Right.
And then in the wee Chinese takeaway tub, I put a flapjack, like a Trek bar, and a banana, which I was to eat straight away, and a little kind of sugary, sweetie things, for extra energy. Are you wanting down now? No, you just want your tummy rattled. What a dog. So it's 350 calories.
And I know I've done things with all that kind of stuff, like sweet things and Lucozade and that. Just as I request, were there points when you thought, oh, I'd love something savoury?
No.
Well, you never had that, because when
I didn't really want to eat or drink. I just forced myself.
I know, but there's times when I've tried to take the Lucozade, take the biscuit, the thing, and then after a while I'm like, oh my, I could just go a pork pie or just something really.
I wasn't hungry.
No,
I'd made the decision before I ran. I knew that I needed to take in these calories every 8 miles. So no matter what I felt like, I needed to have them finished before I got to the next place. And I had a little kind of backpack thing on the back, like a little pouch thing, so I could carry stuff until I got to a bin and stuff like that. So I'd just take the stuff, eat the banana straight away, drink the Lucozade, make the flapjacks and the sweeties go before. I don't know if this dog wants down or not.
No, she's just.
He just does ring about. Are you? And so I had to finish it before the next checkpoint. I did it every time, and I had to find them. And
that must have been a bit.
Well, when you're
stopping and
when your mind's not on it, it was a bit worrying. But actually, it worked out. I found every single one of them. I ate them all, and I drank everything. And I didn't drink any water. I did Lucozade deliberately because it had energy in it, and I thought, well, might as well be getting some energy from that instead of eating even more solid stuff.
And was it quite warm when you?
It was fine.
Drinking it?
No, the stuff was all fine. It was just slightly buried. It always took me 2 or 3 minutes to find it and get it out and stuff like that. So it lost me a little bit of time because I was unsupported. Because I needed to find them and then get back to the road again. Because they were off road and they were hidden in case I didn't want people to find them. But I did. It worked out perfect. I ate them all and drunk everything. So that gave me as much energy as I could get in my body, but not all the energy I would need.
Right.
That's what I did the day before. That worked out perfectly, actually.
And it worked out well on the day.
It did. On the day. So I'll tell you what happened on the day.
How
it worked out on the day.
Well, yes, you can. Yes, obviously, I'm assuming, as you have mentioned to me, that you actually ended up not having enough. I ate it and drunk everything just like I planned, and I'd also worked out how much liquid I thought I should be taking. On the same basis. It was how many millilitres and stuff. So it was 500 millilitre in a bottle. I would say this: the only measure I've got of I had enough energy. I ate everything. But I don't think I drunk enough, because in the end, that sunny day, I didn't have my sun hat. I was vest and shorts. It was a great day for running, but I was 9 hours outside, just over 9 hours, and all of it was sunny, and it catches up with you. So I ended up, I think, with some kind of heat exhaustion or sunstroke, and some dehydration, because to put it bluntly, I never needed a pee at all until I got to my house in Whiting Bay, which was only 9 miles from the end. So I'd done 47 miles at that point and not done a pee. And I don't know if that's normal for ultra runners, because I'm not an ultra runner, but I would have thought if I was getting plenty of liquid in me, not 47 miles would have passed without me needing to do anything at all. Would you have considered using an empty bottle and getting water from
No, I just stopped the plan.
A burn?
I just stopped the plan.
So did you have a kind of target, firstly time, and assume that's, would be the same as a goal, so did you have a kind of target?
90% of my target, really the whole thing, was just not to stop, not to fail. I was scared of failure. I expected it. I thought the chances were I wouldn't manage it, but I was going to give it my best shot. training had gone well though. I hadn't got injured. My knees had managed, which was a surprise, because I've had problems with these knees for years, you know, and I hadn't been able to run a step the whole of 2018. Not a step the entire year. So the training was amazing. Sorry, what was the second part of your question there?
Yeah, well, did you have a target time?
A target time, that's what it was.
Goal,
yes, that's what it was.
Obviously,
that's it.
Did you have a target time?
Yes.
And I can't believe, I'd assume you would have. It's like you're the same as me.
You've got to challenge
yourself.
yourself.
No, I just want to finish it, but, you know.
I wanted to finish it. The main thing was not to fail, but on a golden day, if I was to succeed and get round and still hit the time, I thought 10 hours was, anything under 10 hours would be perfect. Under 11 hours would be perfectly acceptable, but my best possible would be under 10, and that would be the perfect end to the day. So that was my outside goal, but really it was just, you know,
well,
not to fail.
inside that, yeah. For the hardest kind of times when you're doing your run, can you think of like what was like, say, the most physical hardest point of your run?
When I went round Ireland, I ran from Lagg to Loch Ranza, and that was a marathon in about 4 hours, and I felt comfortable and good all the way around. I started to struggle when I went up the Bogley. That was disappointing. I ran up the Bogley, almost all of it, and I really should have probably slowed down a bit at that point, because when I run back down the other side of the Bogley, my legs were stiffening up, and I thought, well, that's not so good. I'm only halfway round. So that was a warning shot. And then when I got to Brodick eventually, I was really, really tired at that point. At 35 miles round, I couldn't hear my radio anymore. I couldn't hear the music. Only thing I was doing after 35 miles, and especially after 40 miles, was just not stopping. And that's what this book's about.
So that was like, you know, obviously the second half, gradually tiring, but what was the kind of most physically hardest point on your run? I'm
just putting one foot in front of the other from maybe 40 miles onwards, and I'm not thinking about anything else.
Right.
Just thinking about the next challenge, and I managed to get from Brodick to Lamash, and then from Lamash to Whiting Bay. That's where my house is. At that point, I realised too late that I had, like, I don't know, heat stroke or sunstroke. I was boiled. I went into the house. First time I went to the toilet was in my house in Whiting Bay. So that is 40 miles round Ireland, and I haven't done a pee, right? So that means I've not had enough liquid. I've been boiled with not having a sun hat on. I went frankly looking for my sun hat. So I'm dehydrated at this point and too hot, and also totally done in. So that was the hardest point, because I could have just sat down in the chair in Whiting Bay in my house and stopped.
So that was like, as you say, you were physically, you know, struggling, but mentally, obviously, you were keeping.
I was thinking I stopped
getting to that point. So was that when you got to your house, you'd say was the hardest mental point to get going again, or was there anything after that you mentally was harder?
The hardest bit I would say was in my house, because when I was in the house I thought, that's it, I'm just going to sit down, that's me duffed, I've given it my best shot. And then I realised what kept me going was this perverse thing, which is fear of failure, because I'm going to do it again. I'll put my body through it again. I'll still attempt to challenge in the future, and I'll be older, and also I'll have failed. So I don't want to. So however duffed I was, it was a motivator, because I didn't want to ever be this duffed again. I was completely trashed at this point. I had nothing left apart from trying not to stop, just trying to keep moving. The speed was going down, and so it was a fear of having to do it twice that got me back out of Whiting Bay, out of the house. I was about 10 minutes in the house at this point, and back on the road again.
So you got going again, and obviously the last wee bit, how were you feeling the last wee bit? So how were you feeling the kind of last wee bit when you were kind of know you're needing the end, and at what point did you think, I'm going to finish this?
I had 9 miles to do from Whiting Bay to Lagg, but that seemed like something that I couldn't possibly manage.
It's kind of majority uphill.
Yeah, very it's right uphill because
Really,
I was at sea
you get
level
up
in Mighty
and a wee
Bay.
bit down, up, a wee bit down,
That's
up,
right.
a wee, so you
Up to
continually
Butter
just
Hill.
stop. Yeah.
And it never goes back down to sea level again.
Yeah.
So that was the hardest bit. And all of that, I thought I might well fail. I was so ill, I was expecting to, at any point, stagger sideways off into a bush and fall into it and not get back out again. I thought I was in danger. I was having, so maybe 5-6 miles from the end, I was starting to get chest pains, and also my entire body was pins and needles, proper pins and needles, sore. And I knew it was breaking down. I'd got heat exhaustion, whatever it was, and just dehydration and tiredness. Everything was stopping working. I knew that the end was nigh, and I still didn't know I was going to do it, even 5 or 6 miles from the end. Neil May caught up with me in the car because he'd heard from the postwoman, Kirsty Smith, but she'd seen me, delivered the mail to him, and he had been told that I was doing this. And he'd rushed out in his car, and he kept me company for the last 4 or 5 miles, and that was enormously encouraging for me. Not because I expected to do it, just because I thought if I need to go to hospital, he'll be able to drive me there. And also because he was behind me with the car, he could fend off anybody.
So you reckon when he came with that, you thought, right, okay,
at least I'm safe.
I'm going to finish.
I'm safe from harm. I wasn't sure I would finish, but I knew that I wouldn't never be seen again in a bush, because that's really why I felt. I thought I might just stagger off and that's it, daft.
Okay.
I need medical help and I don't get it. He'll take me to the hospital, and that's how bad I felt. Right. Anyway, so I carried on. He's behind me, making sure that no one annoys me or cuts me in and stuff. So I don't need to think about anything apart from not stopping. And then he let me know about 2 miles from the end that I was going to manage it, because he told me it was all downhill and there was only 2 miles to go. And at that time I realised, and I started stagger running, I really had almost nothing left, and I started sobbing and running at the same time.
Nice.
And it was the first time, and you've said that you've done that.
Yeah. So that's getting there, sobbing, running. Neil's with you. So when you actually finished at Lagg, what can you remember as the first emotion when you actually stopped where you'd started?
It wasn't a celebration of achievement. It was relief at not failing. It was fear. I expected probably to fail, and for the last third of the run I thought I was going to fail, and even until that 2 miles from the end I didn't know if I had it in me to
so
get
on that subject of the fear of failing, how do you think you would have felt if you had failed?
Terrible. I mean, absolutely gutted, because I knew I'd done everything as hard as I could. I'd done the training. It was 56 at 56. The summer would have been coming. The weather would have been worse. And I thought this was my chance, because I was in good condition. I was slim, and fit. In fact, well, I can show you a picture in a wee second. So I was skinny and running great times, I just couldn't see I'd have a better chance.
What do you think you personally have learnt from the experience of doing that around the island run?
I've learned that I'm more capable than I thought I was. I think I've probably learned also that I'm not capable of doing any longer than that, because that was as much as I had the strength for, unless the training was different.
You finish your run, so obviously kind of directly after, obviously the run, how did you feel? Well, mentally, but mainly I suppose physically. So how did you feel hour, 2, 3 hours after the run, and how did you feel say a few days after the run?
Immediately after the run I became a cripple, because I sat down in the car, and then Neil May and Pete Bowers tried to get me to go in front of the Lagg Hotel for a photo, and I couldn't stand up, and so one of them had to take me on the shoulder, the other on the shoulder, and carry me in front of the hotel. I had nothing left. My legs were completely seized up at this point. I felt great. I felt elated, of course, and relieved, but I couldn't move. This is a photo of me with Beanie Beansprouts and Tom Gilmore giving me the trophy a year later, because they couldn't present it to me at the time because of COVID. So that was a lovely surprise, getting given that trophy.
Why the scarf around your neck?
Because you had to have that was the scarf, was the mask. You had to wear them at work because it was still COVID.
Right.
This is the picture of me finishing outside the Lagg Hotel, looking really quite refreshed and fresh there, but actually I was disastrously tired out, and I was only standing, but I couldn't move.
You're probably wishing you thinking, I wish I could lie on that bench.
This is a picture of me just finishing, come around the last corner, still running, and that was me with about 50 yards left to go. And this is the actual trophy that I was presented with from Arran Runners a year after I did it. By surprise, I was at work at Calmac and Brodick, and they came to my workplace and presented me with this handmade ash trophy in the shape of the Isle of Arran. It's got a brass plaque in the front of it, and it says 56 miles at age 56 from Arran Runners to David Black to commemorate a magnificent round Arran run, 2nd of April 2021, 9 hours and 17 minutes. When I did the run, I specifically bought a Garmin watch that would have a battery that lasted long enough to record the whole run. It recorded it at 9 hours and 17 minutes, although I also had about an extra 25 minutes, which was spent mostly finding Chinese takeaway tubs and Lucozade bottles that I'd buried in the way around because the run was unsupported. So that was my running time, 9 hours and 17 minutes, but it was closer to 9 hours and 40 minutes or so if you include me just kind of digging about getting my supplies out as I went round the island. It took me 2 or 3 minutes each time, every 8 miles, and my one toilet stop. So that's on Strava, and that shows that I did do it in that time, and a lot of people saw me, of course, going on around the island as well. The trophy is a wonderful thing. It's my favourite possession because it's something I've got for life, and I get to keep it, unlike most running trophies which you would win and then you would put your name on it and then it passes to the next person. When I'm an old person, if I'm not already an old person, I'll still have this, and it will remind me of my achievement forever. So really, such a wonderful thing to get. I'm very grateful for getting this, and also, of course, very grateful just for the physical ability that I had to be able to complete it and not fail. Okay, Dave the Rave, Gordon the Gopher, over and out.